There are many frameworks that can be used and are being used around the world by territories to analyse their competitiveness and therefore to use that to understand their strategies both in the past and into the future. Typically these frameworks look to put together different dimensions of the business environment and competitiveness context in different places, how they interact with one another to generate economic outcomes. One of the things that we wanted to do in this Basque Country Competitiveness Report is to evolve the framework that we've been using over recent years and to take a new approach to how we look at territorial competitiveness. And there are two key dimensions to this. Firstly, we've put the focus on competitiveness for well-being. So moving away from competitiveness for the sake of competitiveness, so economic outcomes for the sake of economic outcomes, and towards the idea that really if we're wanting to generate economic competitiveness, it's so that we can impact on the well-being of the region and the population of people that live in the region. So we've identified a series of 7 dimensions of well-being, and we've put those right at the heart of the framework, so that all the time we're trying to understand how the economic dimensions interact with and impact on those well-being dimensions. The second area where we've evolved the framework is in terms of looking at and being clearer about the dynamic levers where policy can act and where policy can actually make a difference, both in terms of the economic outcomes and more critically from this framework in terms of how those economic outcomes then result in well-being. So we've changed slightly the configuration of the framework, and I think that it can be a useful evolution and a useful framework for other places that are interested in competitiveness, not for competitiveness' own sake, but for trying to understand the well-being of their territories. And I think there are 3 ways that the framework can be used. Firstly, it helps us to organise indicators, so we can measure things in different ways, and it gives us just a way to put the indicators to help us to organise them. Secondly, it allows us to structure research questions, and for Orkestra this is a really key point for our future research agenda, in particular research questions around how the economic dimensions of competitiveness interact with and determine the well-being dimensions, how the different levers interact with both, etc. It allows us to structure research questions. And thirdly, and again very important in the work we do at Orkestra, is it helps us to be provocative in terms of facilitating reflection, debate, discussion among stakeholders in the Basque Country around what they're trying to do and the direction they're trying to drive their actions towards competitiveness and ultimately towards well-being.